that connections are not, they're not strong. In Yiddish, it's totally normal when you're talking to your kid to say, mein Kind. Try it in English. It sounds so funny. My son. It's too formal. Who talks like that? But we used to talk like that. Mein Mann. Mein Kind. That's what the relationship was. So it wasn't rare. It wasn't unusual. For an 8-year-old, it's a little bit unusual. But that was the normal life. And even with the Eibishter, we have to have that same mein Gott. Gott in you. Our. And that's why when people, you hear people talk about the Eibishter, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That sounds so unpersonal.
Just because I'd like to hear the answer from you, because you were saying that we don't marry things. So why in the world, like my son is, is looking for a shidduch. Why don't you just go take any girl then? Because it's not the thing.
Als hij vlekt met hun.
Yeah, thank you.
I was like,
Okay, but how to finish it?
yeah,
What do you do?
Sleeve, you want a mother, you want a background, you want
Because you do want to make it easier for personalities to...
Let him answer.
No,
Yes.
it's not.
No, I
It's
came
not-
up with a different thingy, but I want to hear
It's
yours.
not because you're marrying those qualities. It's more of a process of elimination. You want to make sure that there is nothing about the person that's distasteful to you. Because if there is, you'll never get past it. So you see, everything is good. There's a mensch, I like his humor, I like his looks, I like everything. Good. So now nothing will bother you. You can get married. But not that you're marrying those things.
And if there's something
What's the
distasteful,
process
then
of
you'll never
Shabbos?
get over it?
No, I was just thinking
If it's already distasteful and you're not married to
Hashem's
him,
way of getting us to the
imagine how it would bother you if you were married to him.
And so what do people...
He makes the appeal
So then...
to...
And that's why any little thing doesn't matter. You don't like his nose? Don't marry him. You don't have to have a good reason to say no.
Isn't it like how badly I don't like the nose? I mean, I could live with
Yeah.
the nose, like
Yeah.
if you say.
But if somebody brings it up, it should take yeah, I can live with it. That sounds like you're pushing yourself. It's b'diavad, Oh, you brought.
But these are such external, like let's say
Yes.
short.
Yeah. So,
So why can't...
So a guy says to
Shall
me,
if it
I
bothers you,
understand. Okay, well,
Yeah.
if it's your belief system.
No,
so a
but
guy
like...
says, I'm so ashamed to tell you, but I'm uncomfortable with her teeth.
Okay.
So I said, then don't marry her. He said, but that's so shallow.
It's very shallow.
So you're shallow. So a person
Aware
says,
of it.
it shouldn't bother me. It's a little too late now what should or shouldn't. That you should have taken care of in yeshiva when you were
What
developing your
happens if someone does
personality.
get married and there is something distasteful?
So once you're married,
Too
You
late.
have to work on it.
yes. Once you're married, you have to overlook and you have to, but you go into a problem. What are you asking for trouble? What's the expression mit der kranken,
Kranken Bett.
legt der gesinnten Kopf in der kranken Bett?
Yeah, but nobody's perfect. I mean,
See, but that's what it is. The imperfections will annoy some people, and it doesn't bother another person. So
So I decided, as we're going through, I answered my question that Hashem makes the appeal, what things should yes appeal,
Ve'senis
not appeal, so
b'asher-
that we should get to Abba Sherta. That's
Ve'senis-
what I figured. But once you get to marriage, you have to understand you're not marrying the things, but You're
Bravo.
Wenn sie nicht beschert, zet man nicht kein Meile. I say, ja beschert, zet man nicht kein Cheslenes.
100%.
outside.
The classic, beautiful story about
Yeah, I picked up on fish.
a shadchan in California. She called up a girl and set her up with a bucket. After the meetings, she calls the girl and says, "No, it's not for me. It's not for me. He's already getting bold.
So really getting what?
Bold. Okay." Then the shadchan finds another bacher. She thinks it's very good. She calls the girl. Huh?
He's full of. And she's thinking, oh, that's gonna be the one.
She calls the girl, and she sets it up, and she tells the guy, who is bold, "Don't take your hat off." By the meetings, don't take your hat off. Okay. They go, they meet,
Yes.
and she calls afterwards. She calls the girl. She calls the guy, and he says, "Yeah, I met her. Yeah, I'm interested. I'd like to go out again. Yeah, go out again. Oh, but you told me not to take my hat off. I forgot. I took my hat off." She said, "Okay, you blew it." She calls the girl. "No. Yeah, very nice. Yeah? Yeah, very nice. Want to go out again? Yeah. Even though he's bald?"
She said it?
She didn't even
The
notice.
shadchan
What'd
said.
she say?
The shadchan said, even though she's bald?
She's like, he's bold.
She said, "He's bald?" They're married, they're happy.
So it's a true story.
True story. And maybe she didn't like guys who are going bald. Als gekrochen haar, bald is bald. But it's halfway.
That's a cute story. Or maybe she liked the cleaner look.
That's what the guy says. I met the girl, I don't know. Look, I'm embarrassed to tell you, but I always wanted a blonde. I said, "Then forget about it. She's not blonde." He says, "Yeah, but that's just the Yetzer Hara." "So, you want to get married without your Yetzer Hara? You're going to leave it by your mother? You're getting married with your Yetzer Hara, so..." And why do you have to meet? You heard good things about her, marry her over the telephone. No, but tarnish. Why? Because you have to see the silly little things. Because we're silly people. Okay, so again, we're dedicating the class to my mother, Allah Hashalom, Yud Zayin Sivan, our first yahrzeit. And we're talking about men and women, husbands and wives, mashpia and mekabel. So the first thing we know is like this. Adam and Chava were once one person. They got separated, became two people, and that needs to be fixed. How do you fix it? Through marriage. In marriage, a man and a woman become one. Like Adam was a man and a woman. He was male and female. So the purpose of marriage is to become whole, like Adam was before the separation, and that's when you get all the brachas that a human being deserves, is when you're a complete human being. When you're only half, you only get half the brachas. So what do we know? Just one distinction between men and women. what do we know about Adam and what do we know about Chava? Adam was created from the sand. That's why he's called Adam, because he was taken from the Adamah. How was Chava created? Chava was created from Adam, from a human being, not from sand. What does that do to the man and to the woman? If you're created from sand, which means you're basically nothing, Adama, that creates a mentality, a psyche, where you're never sure that you became something useful. Because everything always goes back to its shadish. So if you're created from dust, you always have a suspicion, maybe I'm still just dust. And that's why we see some of the most successful, most powerful, richest men in history were paranoid. Why, you think I'm nothing? No, you're Stalin. You're the most powerful man in the world. Yeah, but you think I'm nothing, right? Paranoid. Because deep down inside, you never outgrow it. A woman is created from a man. She doesn't have that in her background. I was once nothing. No, you weren't. So a woman doesn't have that paranoia, that suspicion that maybe I'm nothing. So here's the difference between men and women. A man has...
What does she go back to?
A man.
Go back to the man, but then if the man is...
It's really from Adama, then
Then
that's
it's
what
like
we're if there's more value to the man than to the
Yeah,
Adama.
of course.
Yeah, so it's a second generation parent.
Yeah, and not only that he's a man, he's a living being. He's not sand. Whether it's male, female, but he's a mensch. Not a lump of clay. So here's the difference. Men live with the suspicion always in the back of their mind, like a ghost in the closet, that maybe he hasn't amounted to anything. When Hillel said to the Ger, what you hate, don't do to somebody else, what was he referring to? We generally think it means whatever. Whatever you hate, don't do to somebody else. It's a little strange. Like, I hate chocolate, so I'm not going to give you chocolate. I hate being in debt, so I'm not going to give you a loan. It's too open. He was actually referring to something specific. Do you know what you hate the most? Talking to men. You hate the most when somebody reminds you that maybe you're still nothing. That don't do to anybody else. So how do you criticize yourself? How do you admit to yourself that you have faults? First, you're sure that you're something. And then you can admit that you're not everything. Nobody's perfect. Perfect? We're not talking about your being perfect. We're talking about your being nothing. Don't do that. You don't do that to yourself. You never admit your faults unless you're sure that you're something. So before you criticize somebody else, a man, first recognize that he is something. And then you can criticize him. So any criticism that you say to a man, he overreacts. You ever notice this?
No.
This is such a...
It's like saying, you say to a man, oh, I thought you were taller. That's it, he hates you. So what did I say? First, I'm not so tall. And then you're going to tell me I'm not so smart. And then you're going to tell me I'm not so talented. And then you're going to tell me I'm not so worthwhile. You mean I'm nothing, right? You're just starting. But I know where you're going. Because he already has a suspicion that he's nothing. So men live with this burden. That's why men need compliments. Men need to be respected and admired, which means you're something. Women don't need it as much. Of course, everybody likes a compliment, but that's not what a woman needs. The woman is the opposite. A woman has no suspicion that I'm nothing. Don't tell me I'm nothing, that's ridiculous. Question is, am I everything or not everything?
I think it's more accepted to think that men are stronger and more than the women are like.
You mean like vulnerable?
So what do women need? Not compliments, appreciation. Because I'm something, so why do you make believe I'm nothing? I did something. You can't acknowledge, you can't say thank you. In other words, men need to be complimented, women need to be appreciated. Don't take me for granted. And if you do take me for granted, you're wrong. Not I'm nothing. So if you treat a man like he's nothing, he'll eventually agree. Yeah, I'm nothing, I'm a loser. You tell a woman you're nothing, she looks at you like, what's that stuff?
What, can't you see what I am? Like that.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not everything, but nothing doesn't exist for a woman. There's no zero. It's either a 1 or 100. For a man, it's either 0 or something. Here's the proof. You say to your husband, you changed the light bulb? You know how to change light bulbs? Your husband says, come on, everybody can change a light bulb. But he feels very good. You gave him a compliment. He goes to work in a good mood. Now he's feeling, it was so nice my wife gave me a compliment, I'll give her a compliment. So in the morning when you make eggs, he says to you, you know how to make eggs? And you hit him with the frying pan. And he says, well, I gave you a compliment. That's a compliment. Doesn't work. This is why men make a bracha in the morning, shelo yasani isha. Why do you have to say what you're not? Say what you are. What? I'm a man? Weiß nicht. It's a matter of opinion, depends who you ask. But to get up and say, thank you for making me a man darf werden. He has to become a man. He's not sure. And if he did become, you can't thank the Eibishter. The Eibishter made you with some potential. He didn't make you a man. Even the fact that a little boy is born, he has to have a bliss. Wait a minute. The Eibishter just created him. Tagdinish. You don't like the way the Eibishter created him? You have to make a bliss. See? A man is not born the way the Eibishter wants. He has to become. So the man says, I can't say, thank you for making me a man, because I'm not sure I am. But I can say, thank you for not making me a woman, and I'll try to be a man. What does a woman say? She'asani kirtzeni, which means, I'm created the way he wants. I don't have to become. So it doesn't mean, She'asani kirtzeni doesn't mean you created me whichever way you wanted. That's what a bracha does. You're thanking the Eibishter for doing whatever he wants? You're thanking the Eibishter that from the moment you're born, you're exactly the way he wants you. So that's why men have a much more fragile ego. That's why a man needs a mashpia. A mashpia is not just somebody who gives advice. It's somebody who recognizes him as a man. A bocher in yeshiva, if the Rosh Yeshiva says to him, that's it, that's all he needs to hear. And he becomes a man. That's why you have a Rebbe. That's why you have a sergeant in the army. That's why you have groups, clubs, armies, so that the young people can get approval from an older man who's an authority who can say, "Sta mensch." And that's it, he becomes a mensch. Women don't need that. And that's why the tradition is, a bocherl has to go away to yeshiva. Away. What if his father is the best Rosh Yeshiva in the world? Not for him. He has to go away. To find his own authority, to find his own mashpia, his own Rebbe, who can make a mensch out of him. Not by hard work, just by recognizing him as, you're one of us. I'm grown up, I'm already a mensch, you're welcome to the club. In America, in American culture, we don't have that. Boys don't look up to older men. On the contrary, they look down at older men. So they have nobody to make a mensch out of them. So what do? They run after women. If all the women think I'm a man, I'll become a man. Doesn't work. Doesn't help at all. So then they get together, young men getting together, telling each other, hey, we're great. Doesn't work. They become gangs. The only way to get that kind of approval is from somebody who is already mature, a male, who is not your father, maybe your grandfather.
Why not the father?
You're too close, too personal. Somebody was joking because you're both hung up on your mother. So Hasidus comes and says, you're doing it all wrong. You're doing it all wrong. Even if you could find a mashpia who will make you feel like a mensch, that's not how you do it. Because then somebody else will come along and criticize you and chop you down, and you're back to zero again. The best way to do it is, like it says in the davening, Mo'onu, mechayenu, makishenu, magvuresenu. What? I'm nothing. I am nothing. I'm not fighting it. I'm not haunted by it. It's true. I'm nothing. That's the emes. So, what can I do for you? That's called real anivus. That's called bittul. It's not about me. No matter what I do, after everything, I'm still nothing. No, so what am I going to waste time on myself? They're garnished. So what can I do for you? See, that's what happens. Women are nurturers. Why? Because if you're not busy taking care of yourself and worrying whether you're something, then you can devote yourself to somebody else and be a nurturer. Men don't nurture because I hear your problem, but I got problems too. So even if they nurture, it's not completely devoted or relaxed, because in the back of their mind, like, I'm taking care of my baby right now, but that's not what I should be doing. I'm a loser. When a man stops fighting his nothingness, he makes peace with it. Yeah, I've been garnished. But I can do things for the Eibishter, I can do things for you, so fine, so I'm nothing. So let me at least do something for you. Then he can become a nurturer. And in a sense, that's what a Rebbe is. A Rebbe is a nurturer because he doesn't have any ghosts. Sometimes it's called a male mother. So there's that famous story where this general, Israeli general, was by the Rebbe, and after the long conversation, the Rebbe said to him, "So when are you going back to Eretz Yisrael?" And he said, "Whatever, Wednesday." And the Rebbe said, "So soon? Stay a little longer, what's the hurry?" He said, "Thank you very much, but I got to get back." His cousin was a Lubavitcher Chassid. He drove him to Manhattan to his hotel room. So in the car, the general said to him, the Rebbe is such a gentleman. He says, "Stay a little longer, what's the hurry?" And the Chassid said, the Rebbe wasn't being a gentleman. The Rebbe said, "Stay a little longer, you stay a little longer. Don't go." They argued back and forth, and he convinced him. He didn't go. The flight that he was supposed to be on was hijacked to Algeria. I remember the story. It was in the papers. A plane is hijacked. They land in Algeria. They waited 24 hours. There were no demands. Nobody could figure out, what do they want? After 24 hours, they let everybody go. And it was just a mystery. Now we understand the mystery. They were looking for him. He wasn't on the plane. So there's a rabbi from New Jersey, a Rav, was by the Rebbe after the event, and he said, "I have to ask you this question. If you knew the plane was going to be hijacked, why didn't you tell everybody? Call El Al and tell him to cancel the flight."
He didn't know.
Huh?
He didn't know.
So the Rebbe said, "I didn't know it was going to be hijacked. When I'm talking to a Jew, es wilt sich mir desperately to do him a favor. And from that desire to do him a favor, I said, don't go. I didn't know why. In a simple explanation, that's like a mother's instinct. It's a mamische heart. That's called a male mother, a nurturer. So when you really care about somebody, the right words come. You don't even know why. So this is a good example. People would say, "Ui, the Rebbe is a novi, he knew." Big compliment, no? Call somebody a novi. Ooh. No, it's a much bigger compliment that he had so much avos yisrael that it brought the right words. Much bigger compliment. We had many Nevi'im, okay, you know. But that kind of avos yisrael, that's... Anyway.
So my husband always says that when you go into a Rebbe, I mean, it's known from previous days as well. So the first thing that the Rebbe tells you is usually, it's a certain, I don't know if we should call it,
Ruach HaKodesh.
This is
Kodesh or
Kodesh.
something.
Even
Then
this
when
was
you
really
start,
hard. My
arguing
husband's
about
was
this, about that, then of course the Rebbe's only a human being, and then they'll start like listening, Taka maybe you're right, whatever. But he says like, it's been proven so many times that when the Rebbe told you that first time, do invest or don't invest, it was the right thing. Now, after you explained it already, you came with rayas, then of course, okay, so don't, but he said that that's usually the way it is. That when the Rebbe says something, that first thing, then you have to hang on to that.
That's
Even the
also
story
true.
with the Rebbe, it's Ruach HaKodesh. It's His holiness that allowed him
Say
to
it's
say
because
it.
of your
So what is-
tzaddikim, you
Wait,
know.
wait,
That's Mahalon, it's still called Ruach HaKodesh.
What is Ruach HaKodesh?
Right, because it's
Avos
Ruach.
Yisrael.
Right, okay.
What's Ruach HaKodesh? A helike mood, right? What's a helike mood?
I know we picture
Avos
like,
Yisrael.
you know, like a
I know,
bird
so I
telling
would
it
explain to my
ever,
kids
you
that
know,
this is
yeah,
Ruach
like a
HaKodesh.
bird, but
No.
it's definitely
Ruach HaKodesh is to say the right thing because you're so connected and the love, like you're saying, or pure, I don't know.
Yeah, we don't have to make it himmeldik.
Right.
Verkehrt. It's
Can I say a story? A very simple story that, whatever, I've been learning, it was Chabad Overlooking, there's a beautiful book out there with my friends, and we're talking about clothing, like, one of the mitzvahs is to clothe your parents, and anything that you help your parents, shopping and anything. And my friend was learning it, and she had such a strong desire to help her mother, like, such an easy thing to do, she goes shopping with her. The next morning, her mother called her up, she could please come over to help her fix her dress, do her hem. It's very simple. She wanted to help her mother so much, I just sent to the mitzvah. It's very simple, this thing. He wil echt have his team. Ich kann nicht verkaufen, I mean...
It's Ruach HaKodesh.
It's kind
It's a
of.
different story, it's a very different
Yeah,
story.
but
But
see,
see,
everyone
everyone's
has
energy,
to
you have
have
time with the energy, they come
Very
and go.
different
You need to
story.
learn such a thing, it's
Yeah.
an unbelievable thing.
there are two parts. There are some times when the Rebbe's authority, the Rebbe's information is coming from Himmel.
Das Torah.
Don't argue.
That's called
Yeah,
Das Torah,
100%.
no?
That-
that's
that's
for
that's
That's more.
yeah, that's Ruach HaKodesh from Himmel,
I
right?
say it's Eden B'Timim.
But then there's another. The Rebbe is saying that's not what happened here. Here it was push. Ich will hem atayveta. So that's the male mother. So what is the bottom line? The bottom line is that men struggle all the time. It's always there in the back of their mind, unless they learn Chassidus and get comfortable with the fact, our mensch is garnished. We're only here to serve the Eibishter. And the miracle and the beauty of it is that a human being that is a nothing
It's actually the greatest thing.
can do the greatest things. That's the Eibishter's teva. He does us this favor. He makes the useless person the most useful. So now, the problem is gone. I don't have to prove I'm something, because I'm not something. I just want to do the most good that I can do. Because by myself, I'm nothing.
I'm just wondering, the women are more than something than the men, or not?
Yeah.
Just, yeah.
So this whole thing with anivus and bittul, and you have to hold yourself low, that's mostly for men. So with little boys, you're raising your sons, you have to somehow convince them that you're not so important. Your girls, you have to convince that they are the most beautiful and the most
The boys,
perfect,
I missed that, the boys you have to convince
that you're not so important.
that they're not so important.
Why?
They try to make themselves important.
No, you
Because
just
they're
said
nothing.
before, you have to become to terms that you're
You're
nothing.
nothing, but I
Be
just go to
okay
this
with that,
one,
but
back
you
to the
can
world.
I think we'll leave it up to them.
Yeah.
Just, you know.
But if you see your son acting too important, you have to help. I don't know if you should, somebody should, but the objective in their chinuch, in the chinuch of a little boy, they have to get comfortable with the fact that, why are you making a big deal about yourself?
I always see little boys, ich can, like, I have some,
It's
like,
coming
also the
from the
girl,
insecurity.
ich can,
Always
kick
how
this,
you
ich can
push it.
team,
So you have
ich
to
push
dress
it,
more
I always
sure
like, I need to say something.
And in some yeshivas, aftzalachas, in some yeshivas, they actually use the compliments and the importance as the motivation. You'll become a Godel B'Yisrael, you're the smartest, this is the best boy in yeshiva. They're always, and the higher they get, the more paranoid they become. Because you build them up and build them up, and in the end they think,
See that it's not true.
yeah, and maybe after all of that, when they're garnished, so now they need compliments more. Now they need to be the biggest and the smartest and make fun of everybody else. It becomes very nasty.
So what is it about the girl or the women that we think that we do have it all, we don't need to prove ourselves?
Hmm?
What,
Yeah, so that's our shoulders.
Don't forget it. It's not struggling, you know?
Okay, can you repeat what you just said there? The boys, because their prizes and everything, everything sounds big, that's a problem?
Making themselves sound big.
Yeah, but what do you do with the kid that does not? You said before that why do you have a mashpia, why do you have that Rosh Hashiva to say you're a man?
Yeah, but that's the desperate way of solving it. I'm saying the Chassidische way is much better. And the Chassidische way is, you're not such a, who was it who said, please don't be humble. You're not that important. You have to be humble. Why? Because
Yeah,
You're telling that's just the opposite.
But
Like,
they
in
have
other
little
words, you're
kids.
telling your man, you're telling your husband, you're nothing.
Hold on,
No,
she
no, no.
he didn't tell you yet.
That's
Itchy.
now the punchline.
That's nice.
he
So
needs
the punchline is that he's nothing.
he needs to hear that, but not from you.
Yeah, you can't tell him.
Just trying.
Yeah.
No, but so
That's
you're
the
saying,
ideal man.
you're saying that
none of us
really
have, you know what I mean?
kids and
Like a man that is
girlfriend can
focused
handle
on,
hearing
you
that
know,
they're not, that they're really nothing?
all
That's
that.
what Chassidus is.
Teaching them as young kids, or is a grown man working on it?
Take a look at the davening. Of course, he has to grow up and do it by himself. You know,
So what is,
everybody telling him that he's a loser is not going to help.
it's not gonna help him, exactly.
He's going to fight back. But in a proper way, when you educate a child, you help him peel himself away from his self-importance. Look, you tell your son, time to go to sleep. He says, "Chilnish." What do you say? You say, "Aber, willst nicht." Aber, it's time to go to sleep. What are you telling him? Do you hear the message you're telling him?
It's not about what you
Who
want.
cares what
Yeah.
you want? You have to go.
Yeah. So you're doing it all the time. You're always
Girls
saying,
also.
you like this, it's not kosher. So what are you telling him?
It's about how you like. It's about like that. Yeah, so I'm thinking, so let's say, I'm thinking of a particular son of mine, that he thinks of himself. So, in other words, my message to him has to be this garnished.
No.
No.
But that's what he needs to learn.
So
Maybe
in
not
other words,
from
he
you.
will learn this on his own.
Hopefully. But that's why we need chassidus, especially in our generation. Because everybody is full of compliments and everybody's the best and the greatest and it makes people crazy. Men. So if your son is acting a little too, you say to him, "No, and where's the anivers?" And who's going to be the onav? You see, a person who says, a grown man who says, I'm not so important to be the one to tell you. Why did you have to say that? Who are you trying to convince? Even thinking, I'm really not that important. Oh, so you thought you were. So look the Shem in Kop, how important you are, and no, I'm not that important.
Just by referencing it.
Yeah. What's going on in your head? See, I'm going to think an interesting thing. You hear about these people who are Shemer Negia? You know Shemer Negia? Or-
I didn't know what that word
What
meant.
does that
Or
mean?
not Shemer
I
Negia?
don't know what it means.
There are frum people who are either Shemer Negia or not Shemer Negia. Which means they either touch girls or they don't touch girls. These are orthodox. As if it's optional. Holding hands, this. Some people don't do that. Some people do that.
Yeah, or it's because of how. That's some people.
So there's a whole pilpul about it. So I was listening to this guy talking about how important it is to be shomer negia. It's like shomer Shabbos. Are you a shomer Shabbos? Who's a shomer Shabbos? You know where that expression came from? Nobody ever walked into a shul and said, "Ich bin a shomer Shabbos." Nobody ever said that. You know, there are non-Jews who keep Shabbos. You know about this? Instead of Sunday, they keep Shabbos. In Russia, they were called subotnikis. They were Shabbosniks. They can say, "I keep Shabbos." What does a Jew say? "I keep Shabbos." Never heard a Jew come and say, "Ir ben kosher." You're kosher? I didn't know you were edible.
It's more when someone speaks about someone else. You want to know where they're in Yiddishkeit, so
Yeah.
you say they're Shem Shem.
But the expression came from stores. In the early years, if a butcher, you want to know if the butcher is falesla, he would put a sign on the store saying Shomer Shabbos. The store is closed on Shabbos. That's what it meant. The business is Shomer Shabbos, not the guy. And that became like an expression. But again, it sounds like, "Oh, you're Shomer Shabbos? Why, is that an option? I can be and not be? What kind of option?" So how did Cholav Yisrael become an option? You keep Cholav Yisrael? What do you mean, do I keep it? If you're a Jew, you're a Jew. What's... No, because some people don't, some people do. How did that happen? When did it become an option? It's a hiddur mitzvah. It's not a hiddur mitzvah.
Isn't there such a thing called chulavak and chulastan?
Yeah, you're not supposed to drink it.
Yeah, but
There's
it
no
was
such a thing
very...
as chol stam. It's either chol akim or chol Yisrael.
Whatever they call stam. But stam is no good. It has to be Cholav Yisrael.
It's either chol Yisrael or it's not.
Anyway, so now all of a sudden, Negia also became optional. You're a Shemer, you're not Shemer. So you hear the expression, "I'm Shomer Negia." Well, I'm not Shomer Negia. You know what's really offensive about it? If I'm Shomer Negia, I'm not going to touch the girl. If I'm not Shomer Negia, I'm going to touch her. Does she have any opinion? Does she count? What is this? You're deciding, "Ich bin ja Shemer, ich bin nicht Shemer." Who's asking you your opinion? This girl is a mensch, and who gives you the right to decide whether you're going to touch her, you're not going to touch her, as if she doesn't matter?
The onus is not on her as well?
It is.
And Yiddishkeit, it's mostly on her.
But that's not what the expression is saying. Huh? Even if she wants. But if you're not supposed to, you don't do this to her. So what is tznius? Tznius means you don't do this to her. Not because you want to be a tzaddik. The same with Lashon Hara. Oh, you're not supposed to talk Lashon Hara. You have to be careful not to talk Lashon Hara. Why?
Because we do talk.
Why? You want to go to Gan Eden or you want to go to Gehenna? That's the issue? That's why you don't talk Lashon Hara?
Because we don't do it to them.
Does it have anything to do with the person you're talking about? The whole edelkeit, the whole beauty of it is gone. Ich red nicht kein Lashon Hara. Oh, I have a lot to say. I look at everybody and I find everything wrong with them. Aber ich bin doch ein Tzaddik. So, from me you're not going to hear it.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Huh?
Well, a person's not allowed to see or think or whatever. Not
have to
allowed
train
to.
yourself to ask you that.
Somebody said, the yeshiva world is doing a big project not to talk Lashon Hara. What's Chabad doing to stop Lashon Hara?
How is this wrong?
Yes. How do you stop Lashon Hara? If you like people, you won't say bad things about them. But you don't like anybody. And you look with a critical eye on everybody. But since you're such a tzaddik, you don't talk Lashon Hara. It's always about you and it's never about the other person.
It's offensive when someone tells you that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
offensive. You know?
Why?
because it's so arrogant.
Yes.
You feel
yes,
like, no, because then you
no.
feel like guilty when you
It's
do
not
talk.
nice to
No,
tell
it's
somebody in their
not.
face, I don't do that. You have to find a more tactful way to tell somebody. You don't stop them in their tracks, you know?
Because you're
Yeah.
judging them, you're judging
No,
them.
because you're feeling judged.
Maybe the other way around. You hear somebody say Lashon Hara and you say, wait, I know her. No, she's really very nice. No, never. I don't talk Lashon Hara, I do talk Lashon Hara. It's all about, it's so selfish, and the same thing with Shem and Negiah. What do you mean you decide you're going to touch, not touch? Remember the Governor Balabos? That you can decide what you're going to do to somebody. So the whole Avos Yisrael, the whole respect, it's missing. That's a different, off the topic, okay? So the first difference we know about men and women is that men are always in the process. They're always becoming. And they never know for sure whether... So this guy writes, he says, when I was young, I was sure that I would be the best at everything. I got a little older and I realized that's not going to happen. So I decided I'm going to be the best at something. I got a little older and I realized that's not going to happen. So I decided I would like to be good at something, even if not the best. Now that I'm really old, I'm asking my wife that if I die first, she should write on my matzeva, he was okay. Chutz something, Just don't make me into nothing.
You must have bad ego.
Huh?
You must have bad ego.
Yeah, see, but usually,
No, but just opposite,
usually
I think is-
with age, that does happen. You notice older people say, ich bin gar nicht, they accomplished nothing, and they're comfortable with it.
So they're
But if you have to wait 80 years, I should. All those years that you wasted defending yourself, looking for a compliment, and so on. So, men need compliments from their wives. Never a hint that says you're nothing, because that hurts. So, Lamoshel, the worst thing you can say to a husband, this is surprising, huh? The worst thing you can say to a husband is, never mind, I'll do it myself. You hear that?
It's the best.
You hear what that's saying?
Nobody.
Gedarfde nicht. Whoa.
That's true. So you're just saying that the men, the more confidence they get, the more paranoid they get.
From their wife,
From the ones
they don't need pain. So don't cause pain. You're not going to be the solution. The solution he has to find himself. But you certainly shouldn't add pain. So sometimes, and this is not for public, sometimes even something you can do yourself, ask him to do it. It makes him feel good.
That's what the world calls vulnerable.
Exactly, just gotta say, on our side, that's being vulnerable. On our side.
It's also being nice.
Anyway, a very good vulnerable.
Yeah, it's also being nice. So, yes, you can open the jar yourself.
Especially after he closes it.
Ask him to do it. On the other hand, men need to know, stop complimenting your wife on rare occasion. Show appreciation every day. So don't say, wow, you can make eggs. You know how to boil an egg. But say thank you. Don't take her for granted. So the Gemara actually says, the most painful thing to a man is to remind him that he's nothing. The most painful thing for a woman,
What's the word in the woman?
is injustice. What hurts a woman more than anything else is injustice. Why did you do that to me? I don't deserve that. Why do you take me for granted? What am I, nothing? So the woman objects to the injustice. A man just wants to be a something. He doesn't care justice, not justice, at least epis. That's why you raise boys and girls differently. It's very useful, helpful, and productive to tell a girl how good she looks, how cute she is, how sweet she is. Don't tell a guy how handsome he is. Tell him this suit looks good on you. But don't tell him he's so handsome, he's so smart, he's so... When he's right or he says something smart, whoa, that was a chachma. It, not the person.
Well, imagine if you're more specific with your compliments, they take it more to heart. You just in general, you're smart, or you're cute, or whatever they're doing.
Yeah, sometimes compliments make
He's
people
saying that,
nervous.
Put it onto the person.
Because then it starts to sound like a condition. You are something when you're smart. When you're not smart, I'm not so happy with you. So it becomes like a condition, and some kids don't like compliments at all.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why you should compliment what they did, not them.
Right, something specific.
Just like when you criticize, you don't say, you're such a liar. You say, that was not true.
Separate the deed from the doer.
That's the question. If a woman is really is much more sure about her existence, then why would a compliment bother her? It shouldn't even bother her.
No, a compliment won't bother me.
It won't do nothing.
It won't do any harm. She loves it,
Right.
and there's no harm.
It won't be any good.
Yeah, we know it's
Huh?
very hard
It won't
to
do any good.
generalize it as women. There are women like
She likes it.
It won't do any good.
You like a compliment, but it's
Exactly.
rare. Their appreciation is even more
They don't
powerful.
compliment
That's what
anyone
he's
that
saying.
much.
From a husband.
Appreciation is more
If you take
powerful.
something, appreciating is
Right.
more.
But is it true across the board with all women? Like,
Nothing is absolutely 100% every time.
because there are some women that are so unsure of themselves, so not confident. Everything is like so. You give appreciation, they like run away from that.
But see, there's a difference. A woman can lack confidence.
From compliments,
I
they run
can't
away,
speak.
not from
I
appreciation.
can't speak in I can't sing. I can't dance. I can't. But not I'm nothing. With a man, if you say, you're not a very good singer. Oh, hiptoshana. Not a good singer, not a good dancer. So you're telling me I'm nothing, okay? I hate you.
Right. Yeah.
So what did I say? Even
It goes much deeper with a man.
even a man who says, I'm such a schlemazel. And you say, yeah.
Oh my.
Why does he hate you? He said it. And you're agreeing with him finally. Why does he hate you? Because you're not saying it the way he's saying it. He's saying, first, I'm important. And I'm a schlemazel. You're saying, no, you're just a schlemazel. And that hurts. That's don't do to others. Okay. Now, in the relationship between men and women, the Eibishter created the whole world with a system. And the system is giving and getting, receiving. That's the system in the entire world. The rain falls, the earth absorbs it, something grows. The rain is the giver, the earth is the receiver, and the flower grows. Same is true in a man and a woman. The man gives, the woman receives, and a baby is born. Emotionally, that's also true. Emotionally, the man is the giver, and the woman is the receiver. This is why a woman wants a husband who is stronger than her, smarter than her, more successful than her, that he has something to give her and she will receive it. Now, a real giver, if we use the example of a teacher and a student, a teacher obviously is the giver and the student is the receiver. Unfortunately, we don't have a very good example of a real teacher and a real student. Because the structure in schools is so business-like, it's so impersonal, with the big classes, with the structured, that we don't really have givers and receivers. What would be a real teacher? A real giver? A real teacher is somebody who is so devoted to what the student needs that it becomes his whole life. He thinks about it when he's sleeping. He's obsessed with it every day of his life. What does the student need? How do I give it? How do I teach it? How do I present it? A teacher who comes into class and he has a curriculum. The principal told him that today you have to learn this page of Gemara. That's not a teacher, it's not a giver. It's just a guy with a job. Is this what the students need to learn? He doesn't care. This is what the school wants to teach. This is not called teaching even. Maybe it's educating. It's not giving. A giver is inspired by the student's need. That's what makes him want to teach. If he doesn't feel the student's need, he's not a teacher. He's not a giver. Or he's not a man. That's the first thing. The second thing is, when he feels the student's need, he gives everything, his whole being, his heart, his soul, b'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha, v'chol me'edecha. They used to say, if you become a teacher, you will live 5 years less than you could have lived otherwise. Because you'll talk your heart out and you'll die before your time. And that's a teacher. So, two things. Giving means not just give something, a piece of information, a page out of a book. Giving means you give yourself, your whole being. And the second condition, you're giving what is needed, not what you want to give. So, l'moshel, a husband who keeps buying flowers. Whenever he comes home, brings flowers. His wife doesn't like flowers. He doesn't even notice. She says, thanks. Oh, she buys it again. That's not a husband. That's not a giver. Giving means giving what is needed. So when the Torah says that Chava was cursed, so to speak, as if the Eibishter curses people. Huh? She was cursed that she would hunger for her husband. Yeah? El ishech chukosech. I don't know what kind of curse that is, but it sounds like you're going to be desperate, looking for your husband. But the Medrash says, look what happened. The Eibishter says to Chava, you're going to hunger for a husband. So you think she's going to run around the streets looking for a husband. The opposite happened. When men heard that women hunger for a husband, every man wants to find a wife. So every man goes running around looking for a wife.
So the curse was good.
Always.
Always.
The Eibishter's curses are always really blessings.
Doesn't matter.
But listen to what it's saying. The hunger that a woman has is irresistible to a man. That's what he wants. He wants somebody who has a hunger that he can satisfy. And for that, he'll give himself away completely.
Repeat this, sorry.
Huh? Huh?
Just repeat this little piece.
Men find that hunger irresistible, and to gain that hunger, the man will give himself away completely. So if you ask your husband to bring home one flower for the little vase on the table, and he brings home a dozen, he's not giving.
Why?
He's not giving what she
Because
wants.
he decided that a dozen is better.
He's doing what he wants.
He's not responding to her.
I once spoke about this, that if the wife gives a grocery list, the men always have this need to add something else from what the wife said.
No, my husband will not. I always tell him, why don't you bring?
Or
I'm
because
not
they
on the
don't
store. I give him a
understand.
list
It was
of
a
what I
whole sheet
need.
on it,
Bring
but
more.
no.
He will bring exactly what's on the list and won't ever deviate. So it's
Mine
not all
also.
men.
But they have to show that they're in power, like what is it?
They have different
Takes
tastes.
it from the- No, I'm talking about like the grocery store and they have to buy other things.
We are the man that will buy everything.
To
and
show how
some that
generous
stick
he
to the
is.
list.
huh?
So generous.
But that's just things. The point is, he wants to please you, not impress you. A guy who wants to impress you is not a giver, he's a taker. He wants something from you.
For himself.
Mhm. If he's trying to please you, then he's a giver. But you can't please somebody your way. The only way to please somebody is their way. So he said, yeah, but I bought you a dozen flowers.
So the taker comes first before the receiver. Before the taker is first before the giver.
The
The
receiver
need
is
needs to
before the
be
giver.
right.
A man finds a woman irresistible because he wants to be able to satisfy someone's needs. It's also really his own need to be.
Not his need, it's his nature,
his nature.
which is better.
And if a man is not going to be a giver, he won't have any value, so he doesn't have a need.
Huh?
We won't allow the husband to be the giver. He'll feel like a nothing, like we discussed before. So he does have a need to give. It's a nature.
No, the need to give in order to become a something so that he doesn't feel like a nothing,
Yeah.
that's not giving. That's taking.
And that's in all relationships.
It's always like, I'll be nice to you if you'll be nice to me. That's not giving. That's working out a deal. That's business. So I've been nice to you for 2 days, okay, now it's your turn. That's not a giver.
And this is in all relationships, right? Not just,
Yeah, it's a definition of giving and a definition of receiving. But with men, that's what they are. It's not just an activity. A man is a giver. So if he's not
giver and
giving...
a nurturer, because you say a woman is a nurturer. So what's the difference between a giver and a nurturer?
Good. If a man is not a giver, there's something frustrated in his whole system. The whole wiring is wrong. He'll never be happy. Because you can't deviate from your nature. So, that's a giver. That would be a real teacher. What's a student? A student is one who receives. But not half-hearted. If you are a receiver, then that's all you do. Just pure receptive. Which means that when you're listening to your teacher, and you're the receiver, there is nothing going on in your mind except absorbing. You're not thinking, wow, that was really smart. Or, that didn't make any sense. Or, yeah, I've heard that before. If you're thinking any of those things, you're not a receiver. You're an editor, you're a critic, you're a skeptic, you're not a receiver. When you're a receiver, you're doing only one thing, absorbing. That's why in the olden days, in the yeshiva in Bavel, you heard what the Rav taught, then you reviewed it 100 times or whatever. What was the review? Not just to remember it. The review is to see what you learned. Because while you were listening, that's all you were doing. Afterwards, when you review, then you sort out, what did I already know? What new thing did I learn? Do I really understand it? But while you're hearing, all you're doing is absorbing. Very rare. But if you ever had that experience, that you walked into a classroom with your favorite teacher, and you didn't care what they said, and you didn't care how long it would go on, just, I'm listening. Tell me whatever you want, because you can imagine if you have a real giver and a real student. It's powerful. So I'm talking to this class, and they're saying, the teacher is that, blah, 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 blah. They're all disappointed with the teacher. He's not a good teacher, he doesn't know how to teach. I said, imagine you're a teacher, and you walk into a classroom, all inspired. You're going to teach, you're going to explain, you're going to educate these kids. And you walk into the classroom and you take one look at them, and they don't want to be there, they don't want to hear from you, they're not interested. What will that do to you, Mr. Teacher?
Great stuff.
All of a sudden you can't teach, you don't have the energy, you don't understand why you took this job in the first place. It destroys you. Because you're a giver and there's no receiver. Imagine if the whole class wakes up one morning and says, today we just want to learn whatever the teacher says. Boy, all of a sudden he becomes a good teacher. All of a sudden he's talented, he's smart, he has so many good things to say. What happened here? The hunger of the student creates the teacher. Metalmidai.
So you're gonna go talk to the boys tomorrow? My
Metal,
son's class needs to hear it.
Metalmidai yesa mikulam. Right? I gained more from my students than from my chavedim and from my teachers.
Could you repeat that passage?
A Mishnah. Harbe kebalti merabeisai, I got a lot from my teachers. Harbe kebalti mechaverai, but mitalmidai yesa mikulam. A woman who is receptive to her husband turns him into a giver. So there was a commercial years ago about some perfume or something, I don't know. And it, it's all very secular but the idea was a very good one. The commercial was, do you want him to be more of a man? Try being more of a woman. So they meant, of course, but the idea is, you want him to be a mashpia, you have to be a makabel. Because the makabel creates the mashpia. Like you were saying, the student comes first. So, for example, why does a woman hunger for her husband? Doesn't a husband hunger for his wife? Especially when he knows that she hungers for him. A giver doesn't hunger.
It's his nature.
So he goes looking. A giver goes looking for a makabel. Doesn't hunger. But what does somebody who is receptive do when nobody's giving her anything? She's hungry.
Saying that her need is much stronger than his need to want to give.
Her hunger, her need, creates his need. Because his whole existence is a response to you.
Yeah, but there's a man needs to get married. Otherwise, he needs to be a giver. If not, he won't be able to exist.
No, this is first.
It's true, he needs to be a giver. But there is no giver.
Yeah, but so let's say there's a couple that got married and the wife is not looking to receive. He will not be okay.
That's right.
He will also need.
So
He's
he's
also hungry.
So
He's
then
also
he's
wants
nothing.
to give.
So then he's nothing.
No, then he wants to give.
Then we're back to nothing again.
No, then he looks
right.
to
So that's
give.
what that's.
Yes.
He needs to give.
So he'll
If
find
you're-
someone else.
That's right.
So that he's
Something
also
or
hungry to
something.
give.
He's not hungry. He needs to give.
He says he's not hungry. He doesn't think.
It's different. Hunger is passive. What do you do when you're hungry? You're hungry.
When you receive the
Giving
gift.
is active.
Much stronger.
Giving is active. So if
So that's
nobody
what I'm
is,
asking, if it's stronger.
Much
if
stronger.
no,
It's stronger that the wife.
it's not
It's not a
stronger.
matter of stronger,
It's
it's
a matter of
different.
when it needs to be.
It's not stronger. One is active and one is passive. But passive is stronger.
That's what we're asking, that's what you're doing.
Passive is very powerful. So that's why, by the way, a receiver is also a nurturer. Because what happens when you receive?
To chesed, do chesed. To let that one do chesed.
A mother nurtures her child not by what she does. Anything a mother does, you can hire somebody to do. Right? In the olden days, they actually had wet nurses. You didn't even nurse your own child. You hired somebody. So what did you do for your child? Diapers? No. So how did you nurture your child? A nurturer doesn't have to do anything. If you come into the Daled Amos, if you come into the arena of a nurturer, you come alive.
It's comforting just to be there, you know.
Even if you're 6,000 miles away, doesn't matter. Even if you're not in
The
their
kids like when you're home, even if you don't interact with them, they like when you're home.
That's a home. The home itself nurtures. Like, you come home. Ah, Machaya. Why? What's anybody doing for you?
You said last week, because he belonged here.
Yeah. So, the hunger is not painful and useless. The hunger is so creative. It's so productive. It turns a man into a giver. So for example, you have a teacher and there are no students. Or you have a student and there's no teacher. If you're a student and there's no teacher, you're still a student, but you're frustrated. If you're a teacher and there's no student, you're not a teacher. If nobody needs what you have to offer, then you don't exist as a giver.
So I understand why they're not equal. I understand why the macabre is much, it comes first. You need both. If there's no teacher in the classroom, there's no students. And if
Yeah.
there are no students, there's no teacher. Why would one have to come first?
No, not true.
A student is a student.
If you have a student and there's no teacher, you have a frustrated student. But if there's no student and you have a...
Cup and a faucet.
Huh?
Then there is no teacher.
There's no teacher. It's like, who needs me? Nobody. So the definition of a giver is a response to a receiver. And that's why Chava is the mother of all living things, including Adam. She nurtures him too.
Again?
Because you said the
You
definition
answered
of a
now
giver
my
is
question
the-
of
is the
nurture that I asked you
receiver.
before. Ugh, I missed it.
What?
I asked before, what's the difference between a
It's
giver and a
important
nurturer?
definition of the giver.
So you just answered that.
A giver is a nurturer.
A giver is a nurturer. It's about
I'm sorry, a receiver.
A receiver is a nurturer. Why?
Because
What's the difference between giver and nurturer?
because just by receiving you, she nurtures you.
Ah.
Without having to do anything. Like the uterus. What does the uterus do? Nobody knows. It's one of the big mysteries
It's
in
just a place
life.
to grow.
Yes, it receives. And whatever it receives blossoms. And what does it do? Don't know. I mean, you can get into the the nurture, the nutrients that are, but activity, there's no activity. The heart pumps, the kidney filters. What does the uterus do? You know what it does? It waits. It hungers. That's why a woman's pleasure is in the uterus. That's why men don't understand women. Because men don't have uteruses. So in the man, every part of his body is doing something. There's no part of his body that receives. It's a completely different reality. And take a look at what happens in a secular society, in a vulgar, the uterus. Who needs it? Can't we do something to get rid of it? Isn't there a pill that you can make it shut up? So a society that hates the uterus is going to respect women. That's why every man wants not just a woman, because women have uteruses. The secular man, if he's not a mensch, he doesn't want a woman. He wants a part of a woman, but without the uterus. Also without the brain. You don't need the brain. Ibidic. So that's how you respect women. And the opposite. In a society where the uterus is holy, women get respect. When we were in yeshiva in the 50s, most of the malamdim were not really educated, talented. They were people who needed a job. and they just came from Europe, and they have a hard time, and they have to pay bills. Their mind wasn't, they were not great teachers, okay? To put it mildly. So we went through yeshiva year after year. So, you know, nish, there was nothing special. Then when we were 16, we started learning Tanya. And the Rebbe who taught us Tanya, we were in awe of him. Every word he said was like so real, so meaningful, so... We would come into his classroom, it was like a different world. We felt like Mekablim. We just wanted to hear what he said.
So then you had a teacher at first, and then came a student.
No, we didn't realize all the years that we weren't getting anything.
Right, but you understand what I'm saying. He turned you all into students.
No, because they were there. They were waiting to be Makabel. They weren't getting anything for all the years.
They were just hungry.
You could still wait for Makabel, you're not
They were
gonna
hungry.
get it.
He didn't turn us into students. He finally gave us what we were. In other words, we discovered that we were students. We never knew that. We didn't know what it meant to sit and listen and learn. We never felt, never had that experience, and it was so good.
Because the teacher came first.
No, the teacher
No, they
came.
were there, but they never satisfied
You
the
were
other
there.
teachers.
Yeah, but the teacher
No,
comes
the
in and there are
students
no
were there, you
students, and the
understand.
teacher is not a teacher, right? So the
They were
students
the same person sitting in class for 16 years, or whatever. Same
Not
people.
right.
So they
The
didn't
teacher
sa-
came,
They didn't satisfy
turned
them.
on the faucet,
them.
They
water
didn't
came,
satisfy them,
Yeah,
you
yes.
need them.
you made yourself into a receiver.
No,
we
the teacher made them into.
We became satisfied
We
receivers.
didn't satisfy them.
We
They
were
always
hungry
ready
all
to
along.
receive. They were hungry, it's not that they were
And
bad,
nobody was
they-
feeding us.
Whatever. Okay.
So the thing that made him so different from the others, he was talking to us. It wasn't just Effen de Gemoede. Who are you talking to? So we were so, like, I don't know what the word is, verkishift. We were so mesmerized that the class was only supposed to be an hour, and that was not enough. Just warming up. So we had one guy sit by the wall where the clock was plugged in. In the olden days, they had plug-in clocks. So he would sit by the wall and he would pull out the plug for a few minutes and plug it back in and pull it out and plug it back in. And we tricked him into staying another half hour. And then when he was,
Imagine my students would want me so much.
yeah. And then when he got up to go, it was like, no. What are we going to do? You're going to leave what? We were glued to the seat. We didn't know, like, go back to normal. We didn't want. We just wanted him to go on and on the whole night. It didn't, just keep talking. Just keep, because everything he said was wonderful. So, in order to be a makabel, you have to make yourself more vulnerable than the giver.
What does vulnerable mean?
If a teacher, who's a real teacher, yeah, the ideal, he talks his heart out. He wants so much the kids should understand, they should know, they should get it. And a whole year, he invests himself, and at the end of the year, he finds out that the students didn't really care. He would be devastated. It's not like, I don't know, I got paid anyway, what do I care? No. He would be devastated. But not nearly as devastated as a student who was really a student, totally receptive, absorbed everything the teacher said, and then at the end of the year finds out that he wasn't telling you the truth. The devastation. Why? Because in being a makabel, you opened yourself up much more than the giver.
You weren't protected.
Much more vulnerable.
Right. So in order to be that vulnerable, you have to be very secure. How could you let yourself be so vulnerable if you're not sure who you're talking to? So a wife who is going to be completely receptive has to be absolutely secure and confident in the relationship. Otherwise, she can't let go. She has to protect herself. What if? And that is so painful because it means you don't feel like a woman. It's not a detail. It's the whole thing. You're not a woman.
What's painful?
If you don't
Huh?
want
I
that.
can't let go.
If you can't let go.
So there are young couples who get married and they decide that they're not going to have children right away. Why? Why?
Because maybe it's not the right one.
Sure, they don't
First we should get to know each other. What does that mean?
It's
What does
so-
that mean?
It's so against marriage, I don't understand it.
That's what he said.
But listen to what it's saying. It's saying, well, we're going to have children, then we're going to be stuck.
You start off without trust.
You don't want to be stuck with each other?
You're starting off without trust.
Yeah. So how are you going to get trust? So, it is the husband's responsibility to make his wife so secure that she could completely surrender and not have a daige or a worry or a suspicion, and she can really feel like a woman. And usually that takes about a year.
That's what
Shine
I'm
it
sure.
Shine.
It takes a year for the man to fulfill his job.
To give her that much confidence.
And if he didn't succeed in the first year,
Yeah, some people are late bloomers.
like, how many years?
No, there are such people in the
Of
world.
course, it's my
That's
dad.
what people say, the generation.
He just said now that if the man doesn't do his job,
So a woman told me,
so it's not our fault. Then.
a woman told me, it's not her fault.
It's not our fault in marriage.
Right,
If the marriage is faulty, it's not our fault.
right.
The marriage is what?
It's never our fault. If the marriage is faulty, it's not the woman's fault.
Technically, yes.
Why
But the
not?
women is always saying it's
Why not? If you weren't a good
yourself, you make your
receiver.
husband into a
The
husband.
marriage is not what?
It's faulty.
It's
then
not your
our
fault.
because
It's
neither
your
the man
job.
can make us feel secure to
If
be
it's not a
vulnerable.
possibility. It's not
I
possible.
don't like that.
Hang on.
Huh?
This woman told me once, she's married 3 years. And she says, today I really got married. I said, what do you mean? She was driving and she had a blowout. Remember in the olden days? Tires would just explode. And all of a sudden she lost control of the car.
Tell her she never needed him.
Huh?
Well, let him finish, Wendy.
And she says, I saw the car going off the road and I screamed my husband's name. Not my father's name. Now I'm married. Because normally, when she's in a crisis,
And scream Hashem's name.
that's a real crisis. Nobody else can help
Well,
me.
if naturally she screamed her husband's name, that means she was married all along. Because a woman that's not really married is not going to yell her husband's
She
name when she's
noticed
in that
that.
mind.
She noticed
That's what she
that.
noticed that she's married. She didn't
Yep.
just get married.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
She noticed she's
But
married.
you see what that means. Her security, her last resort is not her father anymore. Now it's her husband. There's a woman who had very unhappy with her husband. And every couple of weeks she comes to me and she says, So he did this, he did that. So can I get divorced? I said no. Over no, for months, years. Now can I get divorced? Nope. One time she comes and she says, he did it again. This is in Minnesota. He took the car, didn't tell me. I don't know where he is. It's snowy and it's icy. His eyesight is not good. He's already an older guy. Who knows? It's so dangerous. I said, oh, good. Maybe he'll get into an accident and die. She said, Chas v'sholem. I said, you're not getting divorced.
And if she'd say, okay, you would say get divorced?
Yes.
Then she should get divorced, exactly.
Sometimes we don't know ourselves how connected we have become.
You could be angry at your husband, but if they don't come home on time, you
Yeah.
get so nervous.
That's why the husband comes, where were you? I don't understand. Are you welcoming me or are you... It's a mixed message, like, where were you means you wanted me to come home sooner, or now that I'm late you don't want me at all. I mean, I don't exactly understand what you're saying. Oh, now you come? What does that mean? That I shouldn't come at all, or that I should...
No, it means I'm
It's okay, he
frustrated.
knows really what it means.
You know what
If
it
he thinks the
knows.
minute, he'll know what it means.
And the men also know what it means.
I'm saying, if they would think,
Yeah.
they'll know what it is, but they don't think.
Yeah. I think he doesn't know what it meant.
Oh, women are so weird.
Somebody once told me, Hashem created them, and only him knows, no one versteht zu sagen.
Just heard a story about my mother. She didn't travel too much. But one time she was going to California, and her granddaughter was accompanying her, and the airport with the tumult, with the rush, with the tickets, with the lines, it was all like... So when they finally were sitting on the seat, my mother said, what was that? By the line, why did you have to do that? And what did the computer do? And what did it's all... And she tried to explain it, and it was all new to my mother. It was like... So my mother said, no, you see, I can't even figure out was tutzach of the eld, go figure out was tutzach an himmel.
Practically speaking, so what is a receiver?
What is a receiver?
Practically.
A receiver is somebody who hungers to nurture something or someone.
You're talking about the woman is a nurturer to her husband? Through our receiver.
Why is she nurturing?
Why?
Why is she nurturing? His giving?
Him.
Him?
Or the baby, if there's a baby. So when it says, "V'hayu l'bosar echad," get married and become one, so Rashi says, I think, that that's the baby. If you have a baby, it's one baby. Two people created one baby, so two are becoming one. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
The others say, no, without a baby. Become one. How? If you're a giver and she's a nurturer, you become one. Like Adam originally was a giver and a nurturer, without marriage. Then the Eibishter separated them and said, now become one through marriage. And actually the same is true with the Creator and the creation. He's the giver, we're the receiver. The more we receive him, the more he gives. Because a giver responds to the need.
There's examples, for example, how do you use...
The more we need from the Eibishter, the more we rely on him,
I
the
mean,
more
we
the
need
Eibishter is
everything.
going to give. That's why it says that the Yusim gets more, because he fully relies on the Eibishter.
That's also why we say davening, The Eibishter should send the Geula, should send Mashiach, ki lishuoscha kivinu kol hayom. So the Mefarshim say, that's why? He should send Mashiach, ki lishuoscha kivinu, because we're trusting you. Why is that a reason? It should say, we depend on you to send Mashiach, and we're waiting. But not because we're waiting. So you see from this,
That's close enough.
because you are hungering,
He's gonna
that's
have
what's
to.
going to cause it.
Oh, wow. And that's with any like, I guess that's with any help, yeshia that you need from the Eibishter. That because,
A personal issue, a personal good.
right,
Yeah, so what could be the flaw in a personal yeshia that you're waiting for? You want a yeshia, and he's not sending. Is there a flaw in the
You're not
line?
hoping, sure, you're not hoping enough for him.
I don't know, but I don't want to give him an excuse and blame it on us. But just an example.
No, I just want to perfect it, maybe.
It's like, I really need you to give me, or somebody else. I'm not particular. As long as I get what I need, let it come from a malach, let it come from, okay, then
Then it's not good.
that's not receptive.
So what is receptive?
so meaning like we
That's just
trust
me.
fully that only he can help us.
I want only him.
I only want him to help us.
Then you're a makar. But if you just want somebody to give you something,
And I read somewhere once that you promise to Yeshua if you rely on, whatever, it's obviously that's the right of our life, but to rely on Hashem so much, you're guaranteed a Yeshua that if you could rely on him to that extent.
but from our part, every time we daven, and you ask the Eibishter for this, for health, for parnasa, for success, it's not because you want the parnasa it's because you want it to come from him.
That's how it should be.
That's what davening is.
That's what that is.
Davening is almost like saying, I could go out and get a bigger job and make more money. No, you send me. I want it to come from you. And if you're not giving me, then I don't want. Van a fremden, darf er.
It's the same thing with a husband also. We don't
Yes.
need the thing, we need it from you.
Yeah.
Which we discussed last week.
Yeah, but how and where do you get to that level?
Right, like practically speaking.
I mean, Amuna, when you believe strongly enough that it's going to come only from Hashem,
No, there's
that
certain
you just
things in
want
my
it to come
no.
from.
He says you just want it to. Certain things I know I can only get from Hashem. Like there's no one else in this
Certain
universe
things? Certain?
that can do
everything.
Certain things?
Yeah, other things
So
I
you're-
think I can get from
Nothing comes
But what do you
from
think
not from
the
Hashem.
So you're
What do you mean? I can go to the grocery and get my
No, because if you want to go to the grocery, you might fall on the way. If Hashem doesn't want you to get it. He might make you fall on the way, and then you'll just land up elsewhere. You don't have
She knows all this. She's being honest.
Everything, you make supper, you
Of
think you
course
can do
I
it
know
in
that
your-
everything comes
So
from
why is that? You
Hashem.
send your kids
What
every
my
month to
initial
school,
thought,
then
my
okay.
animalistic self.
The question is, I know everything comes from
I know it
him,
comes
so
from
I'm never stuck.
No, I understand
So I have
what
to
you're
come to
saying.
him.
I totally
That's
understand
not
what
the
you're
way it
saying.
should feel.
No.
It shouldn't feel like
No, I'm not that I'm stuck.
you have no breder.
Yeah, you.
I'm not that I'm stuck.
Some things I
No,
just
it's
can't get
clarity.
anyplace else.
Right,
In
no,
some
it's
things you see
clarity.
it clearer than in
That
others.
this whole thing that I need is so unique, then I can't get it anywhere else. It's clarity. Only you can give it to me.
For
Right.
example, comes to a
Like
shidduch,
Mashiach.
right?
Like Mashiach.
But in the olden days, when our grandfathers begged for Mashiach, why didn't he come?
Because it wasn't the right time.
They wanted Mashiach because the tzadis were getting to be too much. So in the back of their mind, they would say, if Mashiach comes, these problems would go away. But if Stalin died, they would also go away. So there was like, it doesn't have to be Mashiach. Just get rid of the tzadis. So it wasn't
In the old
really,
days,
So what's
they were
today's
so
day?
lofty, they knew how to ask for Mashiach.
yeah, but there was another,
And Mashiach would have come.
there was another motivation.
I know
word.
why today is there not why today is it are we in a better mindset for that? It doesn't have to be that.
We're not.
We're
We're
not.
the same way.
Right.
We're comfortable.
You hear about
No,
crazy
we are
tragedies
comfortable, but
in
it-
your own shit.
Oh, you see? That's
I know, but I heard from someone that today we have the ability a little bit more. I heard a share he was giving on to Shabbat about, of course, he was telling us to actually tune in and ask for Mashiach for Hashem's sake. But
we don't
because
understand
we
that.
don't, because we have
How many
less of
times do you
Hashem
hear
in
this
this
and you
world.
don't chop what it means? What do you mean we should ask for Mashiach?
No, because we have less of Hashem in this world, and it's less clarity. I don't remember what he said, but something to the fact that now we are much more able to ask for Hashem's sake, because I always forget the point. But in any case,
It's true.
like you say,
Whatever you're not saying is true.
No, but I understand what she's saying. It does make sense. There are certain areas in life that we realize that it does kind of click in our mind. Of course, everything. I mean, picking up this cup is also it's what the Eibishter gave me the koyach to do, right? But there are certain things in our life that we come to realize
but
that
it's
can
not
only
happening.
come from the Eibishter. Talk about a shidduch.
Yeah.
It's like you're stuck and you say, okay, whatever. It has
It's a
to come
bigger
from Hashem.
thing, that's why.
There's more clarity in this.
Well,
It's
you
different
feel,
than
no, you know when there's more clarity, when you feel how
It's
Not
not
that it's more
you
clarity,
and
this is
yourself, you
rote,
want
this is
Hashem.
things that you do every day. That's more clarity, it's just as clear to you that
not
Hashem helps you with a cup.
It's
It's not just as clear to you that Hashem helps you with a cup like a
You don't have
sugar.
the only
No.
It's just your road, you do this automatic, that's why.
Sandy in your
That's
brain,
not
that's
clear.
clear.
That's not clear, it's clear to you that Hashem does this, it's just,
Sandy in your
you're
brain,
doing things
it's
by
clear.
road. And a shidduch,
But that's-
right? That's more. If you're doing things by road, a shidduch is a thing. It's not your everyday thing. You have to depend on Hashem. But this is
Now
really
you're
not
talking-
clear.
you're
You know
talking-
that Hashem does this.
You're talking about emunah. The issue is another one. Not whether he is in charge, whether you want him. It's a completely different issue. Do you want him because it's him, or do you want him because he's the only one who can give you stuff? So I think what you're referring to is, today we're much better able to just want him, because we have stuff. More than ever in history. Do we really need anything? If anything, we need to eat less. We need less junk in the house because it's getting too cluttered. Right? We got too much. So what do we need him for? In an emergency. Oh, come on. It's only good for emergencies. So the truth is that we are more able to do it just for him than in the past, because in the past we needed him so badly for every little thing. How do you get to do it for him when you're so needy? We're not so needy. Now we can sit back and say, I'm comfortable, I'm successful, I'm healthy. Does he need anything from me? For the first time in history, we can actually think like that.
I wonder if that's true, because they say the more things are on the world, the more problems there are also, right? So should we say today there are less problems in the world than those days? You got Hashem now?
Talking about problems, talking
It's a
about
different-
Desperate on
shayfa.
Hashem.
Talking about
It's
the
a different
shayfa,
kind
the
of
things that
problem.
we have, right?
Our problem today
It's
is,
different kind of problems, but we still need Hashem.
our problem is today is not what we need from him. Our problem today is we're bored. We have energy, we have strength, and we're not using it. So it's almost like, if he really needed me, I'd be excited because I have nothing else to do with my talents and with my time and with my... So if he really needs me to need him, okay. I'm glad to hear it because I have time and I have koyach. So today, we need to be needed more than we need. We're not so needy. We just want to be needed, not useless. So if we can serve him, boy, that's exciting. Because otherwise, what? So in some way, to some degree, we can ask for Mashiach because he's waiting much longer than we are. So if he's waiting for Mashiach, and we're the problem that is causing Mashiach not to come, that's terrible. Why are we doing this to him? Now, what if your husband is not such a giver? Would it help if you became more of a receiver?
Yeah.
100%.
Could be.
How is it possible?
Because you're creating the need.
Yeah, but it's not easy.
You just said that in order to be makabel, you have to be fully secure with that which you're doing. How could you?
That's all you have to do is trust him not blindly.
That's called l'shem shomayim. You do it purely on emunah.
Well, that's why you do
Yeah, but if you don't really believe it, it's not going to come through.
So the question is faking it helpful? Sometimes. If he's for all practical purposes a mensch, and there's some missing link, if you fake it, it can make all the difference. If he's not a mensch, then he's got to start all over again. It's not going to help. But to become the giver is certainly not the solution. The wife who suddenly has nothing but advice for her husband. Do this, don't do that, why are you doing this, why are you... This is not going to lead to anything good.
Again? Repeat.
Don't become the giver.
Simple enough. No.
Well, he's not doing it, so I have to do it. No, you don't. That just makes it a bigger problem.
See, but
Not
don't do
only-
it, but trust that he will do it.
Or find some solution, but don't become the giver.
Don't build the sucker.
Okay, but how do you...
Don't build the sucker. Don't try to change it.
He's not such a good giver, so you're not going to be a
You see, you
receiver.
could become.
What does it
And
mean?
this is
not
going to
to
help. So now there's no giver, no receiver, what's going to...
Doesn't matter.
So in practical terms, what do you mean?
He said it very practically speaking.
Very practically speaking, if he's not a giver, you have to somehow cultivate that in him. Make him feel like a giver, even though he's not. And then it's a bisalach. But that means become more of a makabel.
Compliment with the little receivings and then he'll give you on the little.
If you don't like to hear the compliments, you won't give
Yeah, we're going back to our basic, you know.
Okay, one final thing. It says that after Mashiach comes, women are going to be more powerful or more prominent than men.
The woman will be more prominent and powerful in life.
Where's it?
So let's look.
נעבירו בשיר.
But that doesn't
I
mean
think prominent than we are, I understand.
that doesn't mean you're going to become the giver. On the contrary, the power of the receiver will become so much more necessary or more appreciated and more
Notice.
because once the world is good, you don't need a giver so much. It's already good. But being a receiver will still be very... So, same thing with Eberstedt and Yidden and the world. The world will become much better. How? Not by becoming the creator, but becoming more of the makabel. And the makabel is very powerful, it's just not noticed. All you notice is the giver. So, whose mitzvah is it to get married? His mitzvah. Who buys the ring? He buys the ring. Who is Mekadosh? He's Mekadosh you. So on the surface, he's doing everything. When Mashiach comes, it'll become very obvious. You're doing everything. How does that fit with us on the Eibishter?
Doesn't fit.
This world will become his main place. I'm not going to go to heaven. All the neshamas and Gan Eden are going to come here. Tchias HaMesim.
Because we're the receiving, yeah. We're the, okay.
So the receiver will become more prominent than the creator. There you go.
That's Tanya, not Lubavitch, that's Tanya, right? Oh, Lubavitch. That's what Tanya says.
It's Tanya,
All the
it's
Tanya
Lubavitch,
says
it's
it.
Teva, it's
Oh,
Emes,
right.
it's the future.
And